So let me ask you something. Have you been telling yourself you just need more motivation? That if you felt a little bit more focused, maybe a little bit more drive, you'd finally do that one thing you've wanted to. You'd post the content, you'd stick to that morning routine, you'd build a business that you're actually proud of. Because if that's you, genuinely, this episode might change everything for you. We've all heard the line, discipline eats motivation for breakfast. Yeah, it's very cliche, but also it is genuinely very true. And today I want to show you the reasons why. Because motivation isn't what most people think it is. It's not the thing you need to start something, it's the thing you earn after you've already moved. And I'm going to explain that because motivation is a reward, not a requirement. And once you understand that, you stop waiting for the right feeling, you stop relying on hype or emotion just to get things done, and you finally start building real momentum because you are consistent. And by the end of this episode, I'm going to give you a 4-step framework that shows you exactly how to take action even when you really don't feel ready. It's the same process I used when I was stuck, and it's the same one I give to my clients when their emotions are all over the place and they need to move. Because once you learn how to move without motivation, you stop making decisions based on how you feel right now and start acting based on what's best for your future self. And that's when everything changes. Welcome to Built Different, the podcast where we break down strategy and mindset for entrepreneurs. Everyone talks about systems and frameworks, but without the right mindset, you're never going to apply them because the most successful people all agree on the same thing. 95% of success is a mental game, and strategy is just a fancy word for prioritization. And as a business owner, that means putting your time and energy where it matters the most. But when you combine self-belief, a clear strategy, and proven frameworks, that's when you build something infinitely scalable. And each week, I'm going to help you do exactly that. One mindset shift and one real strategy at a time. I'm Joe Cross, founder of Excel Coaching and the Coach Creator, and this is Built Different. There was a phase in my business where I kept telling myself I just wasn't motivated, that I needed more inspiration, more direction, I don't know, just more of something. I couldn't quite put my finger on it at the time. I'd genuinely go and sit at my desk, I'd open my laptop, look at my to-do list, and I'd end up rewatching Game of Thrones for the 3rd time. And the worst part, I wasn't being lazy. I genuinely had very big goals and aspirations for myself. I had a very clear vision. And I was genuinely working hard, just maybe not on the right things. But no matter what I tried, I couldn't get myself to just snap out of it. And some of you might feel the same. But eventually, the penny dropped. The problem was never just motivation. It was the gap between where I was and what I thought I needed to do to win. That gap went from a crack to a canyon when I moved to Dubai, and suddenly the bar felt so much higher. I wasn't paralyzed because I didn't care. I was paralyzed because nothing felt within reaching distance anymore. It felt so unattainable. Like no matter what I did, I knew I would still be miles away from where I wanted to be. So what was the point? It didn't feel like I needed to take 1 or 2 steps. It felt like I needed to take 1,000,000 steps. And my brain was just like, not today, mate. And the truth is, that moment of clarity I kept waiting for, it never came. The motivation never just hit me. And in truth, it's only now, when I look back, that I've gained a level of self-awareness to realize that something was just missing. Section 1. People think they have a motivation problem. Really, they just have a clarity problem. You may be not unmotivated, you just don't truly know what you're working towards yet. And that isn't your fault, it's not anyone's fault. Because your brain isn't built for progress, it's built for survival. At the end of the day, it's an ancient operating system, essentially, designed to conserve energy, avoid unnecessary risk, and default to safety whenever the path forward feels somewhat uncertain. So when your brain doesn't know the next move, it doesn't push you forward, it shuts you down. Not because it's lazy, but because it's very efficient. And efficiency in evolutionary terms means let's stay alive and let's not waste energy. Your brain is constantly asking, what's the smallest move that guarantees me safety? And if it can't pick one, it will just pick paralysis. That's why this quote hit me so hard, because I used to blame my inconsistency on just willpower alone. But it wasn't that really. It was a clarity issue at maybe a tactical, strategic level. I didn't need more vision boards. I needed a to-do list so simple that my brain could say, yeah, We can do that. And once I found that, motivation stopped mattering so much because the repetition of just the movement, the volume, it started to feed me energy. And looking back, this is exactly what Think and Grow Rich taught me too. The starting point of all achievement is definiteness of purpose. But here's what most people miss. Purpose alone isn't enough, because purpose without sacrifice is just a wish. The moment you start sacrificing time, discomfort, distractions, that's when everything starts to shift, because sacrifice is what signals to your brain that this must matter. And when something matters deeply enough, you don't wait for motivation, you generate it internally through a level of momentum. And that for me is the feedback loop, if we call it that. Sacrifice leads to action. Action will build belief, and belief, that's what brings you motivation that you've probably been waiting for. Section 2. You become what you think about most, but only when backed by emotion. Let's keep this simple. Your thoughts direct your focus, but it's your emotions that determine whether your body takes those thoughts seriously. Because if you think one thing but feel something completely different, your nervous system doesn't follow your words, it follows your internal state. You can tell yourself, I'm so grateful, I'm doing great, I believe in myself, all of this kind of jargon. But if underneath it, you're still carrying stress, doubt and fear on a biological level, your body hears that instead, and it overrides any positivity from the mind. And that's why you can repeat affirmations all day long and still feel stuck, because the signal you're sending on the outside doesn't match the one that your nervous system is receiving on the inside. That's why so many people visualize success but nothing ever changes, because emotionally they're still anchored in anxiety and self-doubt. So the brain sees that vision and it just says no. It rejects it, not because it's wrong, but because it's not aligned to your internal state. Joe Dispenza explains this concept perfectly. Thoughts are the language of the mind, emotions are the language of the body. So what that means is it doesn't matter how much you think positively, if you don't feel it, it's pretty much worthless, because your body can't be tricked. It responds to what you feel on an emotional level. And that isn't just mindset. It's not airy-fairy, it's science. When you consistently experience elevated emotions through your nervous system, like gratitude, like confidence, like certainty within yourself, you activate changes in your nervous system that reinforce new patterns, neurologically and within your nervous system itself. That's why emotional alignment isn't just a nice to have, it's epigenetics. You're telling your body, this is the new normal. And once your body believes it, it's going to start moving with you. And this is also when your RES, the reticular activating system, starts filtering the world differently in your brain. So we all know the yellow car theory. When you start thinking about a yellow car and suddenly they're everywhere. Like, those cars were always there. They've not just been planted. But now your brain is actively looking for them. And that's what happens when you emotionally lock in on a vision. Your brain starts scanning the world for proof that it's possible. It's positive reinforcement. You begin noticing opportunities that align with the version of you that you're emotionally rehearsing in your head. That is not magic. That's biology. And this is why most people stay stuck, waiting to feel like the motivation wave hit them, because they're trying to force action without ever trying to shift their internal state. But when your thoughts and your emotions then align together, that's when your nervous system finally gets on board and joins the party, as I like to say. That's when movement stops feeling like resistance and starts to feel like momentum. Because lasting motivation doesn't come from a little bit of hype and a nice little comment or an ego rub. It comes from alignment, from teaching your body what it's supposed to do to move forward. So if you've been waiting to feel more motivated, I really want you to hear this. Motivation won't always be there. And that is entirely okay, because what actually carries you forward, it's your emotional state. If your body believes in where you are going, you'll move, even when you don't feel like it. And that is the shift. You're not relying on motivation to show up. You're creating an internal state that turns action into a level of instinct. And when you do that, you become the version of you who moves anyway. Even on the days off, even when your mind slips, even when the feeling isn't quite there when you get out of bed in the morning, because that version doesn't need perfect conditions. They move because it's who they are now, and that's the version who can never lose in life. You just start to win. Section 3. If the gap between you and your ideal paralyzes you, then shrink the gap. Let's be real. You've set big goals before, you've mapped out the plan, visualized the win, even told people all about it. And then what happened? You froze. You lost motivation. Not because you didn't care, not maybe because you're actually not capable either, but because the goal suddenly started to feel so far away. It started to feel so unattainable. And that's the trap. The bigger the gap, the easier it is for your brain to justify inaction, to stop doing. Most people don't freeze and sit still either. They move on to the next thing. They flick from one idea to another plan, another dopamine hit. And before they realize, they've left behind a trail of unfinished work, telling themselves that maybe the idea wasn't right, when really there was nothing wrong with the idea. They just hit resistance and then ran, which is somewhat normal, and this is where I think Alex Hormozi nails it. He speaks about the common entrepreneurial journey very often, which starts with high motivation because they've got a brand new idea. It's exciting, it's full of energy. You can see what success feels like. You start following on people on social media, you start seeing and feeling the money, and then reality kicks in. You realize it's not all sunshine and rainbows. The gap suddenly starts to feel bigger and bigger. The challenges feel harder, and that initial spark, it fades. That's when most people stop. Not because they're not cut out for it, but because they never learned how to make the journey manageable. Take coaching, for example. Everyone thinks it's going to be sitting at a beach club in Dubai doing check-ins, when really it's nothing like that. I have not been to a beach club in months, years. It's more like clients ghosting you, late payments, no shows on calls, people breaking down mid-check-in, and you're the one that's got to hold it all together. So suddenly, the vision of what you thought it would be starts to feel very different. The gap feels wider. Not because you've gone backwards, but because now you're in it, you're doing the job. The challenges are real in any job, in any walk of life. And the challenges become very real. And that's when most people do freeze, because they think they have got to fix everything at once. But really, you don't. What you actually just need is one step, is one small win. So it's not the full funnel that you've got to solve today. Just solve that one DM. It's not the full content plan. Just do that one post. Not the perfect business setup. Just have a day that was better than yesterday. Because the secret isn't to lower the goal, it's to lower the friction. Just make it simple, make it tangible, make it feel very real. This was massive for me in my own business. There were days where the to-do list felt so long, especially when I was building the Coach Creator. I had hundreds of course lessons to film and hours to script. But when I stopped thinking and I just asked myself this one thing, what's one move that my future self would be proud of? That's when everything changes. It starts to feel more tangible, more realistic, because motivation doesn't come from chasing the pinnacle and the highest heights and the highest highs, because the goal in life is simple. It's just to develop yourself and do better than you did yesterday. Because when the goal is to become stronger, clearer, or more capable, you don't freeze, you simplify it, and you just move. And that's when progress stops being about pressure and it starts just becoming your default, and you learn to enjoy it. So if you feel stuck right now, please do not lower your standards. Just lower the friction, shrink the gap, just find the next step, that next action point, and just take it. So now let's talk all things physical action. So get your pencil at the ready. Step number 1, name the gap. Write down one thing that's making you freeze right now. Not your whole to-do list, just the one thing causing you the most resistance. Because if you can't name the problem, you'll never move past it. So ask yourself, what's the one thing I keep saying I'll do, but I haven't touched in days? Number 2 is I'd shrink the friction, make it feel more effortless. Break the task down until your ego rolls its eyes, because that's how you know it's actually small enough to start and start pulling that thread. You're not writing a content strategy, you're opening a blank document and you're just going to type the first line. You're not trying to sort your entire life out, you're just putting your socks away, like literally. It doesn't matter, just start with the smallest tasks. Starting small isn't weak, it's how you override the part of you that wants to stay stuck. So ask yourself, what's the 2-minute version of this task that I need to do today with no ego and no excuses attached? Number 3 is anchor the identity. This is where most people stop or just don't do it, but not you. Before you act, attach meaning to the action you need to do. So ask yourself, what does doing this prove about who I am? What future version of me is this decision going to feed? When you feel that, you're not just doing a task, you're casting a vote for the person that you are becoming. And that, to me, is the greatest form of self-love. It's investing in your future self. And step number 4 is create emotional consistency. Set a 10-minute daily practice to regulate your nervous system, because if your state isn't stable, your execution isn't going to be either. This isn't about being spiritual, it's not about being airy-fairy, and yes, I will keep going on about it. It's about being strategic. You can journal, you can meditate, you can do breath work, sit in freezing cold water like I do. No, it's not for everyone, but it definitely works. The method doesn't really matter. The state does. It's about bringing you back to the present moment, which we are all guilty of in 2025. Because when you calm your system, you sharpen your mind, and when you show up from clarity instead of chaos, you don't need motivation. You've already built the momentum. But above all, just remember, you're not chasing motivation. You don't need to chase motivation. You just need to embody it. If you want me to show you my 10-minute regulation routine, or how I write down 2-minute task list that just gets things done, just let me know in the comments and I'll drop it below. So if you've been telling yourself you need more motivation, I hope this episode has proved that you don't. You need clarity, you need emotional regulation, and you need to become the version of you who just moves regardless of how you feel. Because here's what we learned. In quote number 1, it showed us that motivation is a byproduct of clarity. When your brain knows exactly what to do, movement becomes automatic. Then in quote number 2, it proved that motivation lies in your emotional state. You can't think your way into action. Your body has to feel it too. And then in quote number 3, we revealed that motivation fades when the gap feels too big. So the solution is never to quit. It's to shrink the task and keep that goal alive. Just make it more manageable. Because once you understand those things, you stop waiting to feel ready. You start building one decision at a time. And I promise you, you'll look back at this shift as a turning point. The turning point when you no longer need motivation. The moment you stop hesitating and start becoming the person you'd always had the potential to be. Rewire your mind, redefine your future. You are built different.